Oh, alrighty. Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're back at it with another episode of Stacked After Hours. After our intense Halloweenathon this year, we thought we'd kick back and relax. I just opened up a mango cart brew, and this episode's gonna be a very special installment of Stacked After Hours. I don't know. If you're looking at the screen right now, but there's if you're watching on YouTube, there's gonna be some visual aid, because this episode is hosted by Chris, and he has a very special presentation for us. Brandon and I know nothing about what this is gonna be about.
The audience is just as blind
anything,
as you guys.
Yeah. So Chris, make sure in case people listen on Spotify and stuff to be descriptive about your visuals. About what you're showing.
Absolutely.
But without further ado, take it away, buddy.
Frankly, yeah. All right. Well, anyone who's listening to this and not watching this, the visual aids are not particularly helpful. It's more about our conversation. The visual aids is just kind of for me to have fun with these guys. But if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you guys enjoy. Man, the people on Spotify have no idea what the YouTube people are laughing at right now. Okay. Well, yeah. Hi everyone. So I am hosting today's episode of After Hours. I usually don't host because I get very stuttery and everything, but this is a topic that I really wanted to bring up because I had this idea a little while ago, but I'm going to get into all that in a second. But let's move on from this opening screen. Oh, can you guys see that, just so I know?
Yes. So what is the idea behind all of this, Chris?
Well,
tell me.
My buddy Michel Foucault will let you know what the big idea behind all this is.
Michel Foucault?
So this episode was actually inspired by the hit sitcom TV series The Big Bang Theory, Ethan's favorite television show.
What the fuck is this gonna be?
What if this is just it? He just shows us a presentation. He said it would be controversial, but it's just a presentation.
So this episode was inspired by a specific episode during the hit television series The Big Bang Theory, Bazinga, for all of you out there. In season 8, episode 18, the group has dinner together at Howard's mother's house. Amy brings up the premise of a quote-unquote salon. Not a hair salon, but instead of a hair salon, a salon in the 16th century Italian is a 16th century Italian invention that was popularized in 17th and 18th century France. The idea is simply a free exchange of intellectually stimulating ideas, theories, and concepts. Yes, as you probably can expect, it was used by socioeconomic and cultural elites to make themselves look smarter than they are. But, we're going to adapt that, because I think that's really stupid, and everyone can engage in this kind of conversation, I feel like. And that's exactly what we're going to do here today. So,
all right.
And I like to think that for all of our dumbassery, we're still pretty well educated. We're still pretty well educated fellows of the arts, I feel like we've had our shining moment, in film studies classes, and what have you. So
Jesus.
This could very well be a pretty short episode or a pretty long one. We're just gonna see what happens. So how many topics will there be? Great question. There will be 7 topics, and why 7? Because this is Stacked Salon's 7 subjects, and definitely not because I could only think of 7 in the time that I had. Whatever. I like having 7. All right, so Stacked After Hours Salon, everybody. This is the 3 of us. I'm really excited.
I'm gonna call this episode Sheldon Salon.
Yes, I agree. Let's do it. Sheldon Salon.
Sheldon Salon.
Ethan does look like Alex Winter in that photo, yes.
A little
bit.
I
cut out his hair
especially
now.
with the hair.
And I if I grew up my hair, I think I would look like Keanu Reeves.
You should do it. I think you could do.
If I went bald, I'd probably look like Socrates.
That's true. You know what? Now that it's a pretty good comparison.
All right. Topic 1. Language and cultural dissonance. So this topic is how does a person's ability to understand language in a film affect their ability to engage with the art? Does watching a movie in a language foreign to you and from a culture that you do not fully understand naturally leave you to have elements get lost in translation? I know this sounds like a lot, but let me get started on this. Let me begin the conversation, and I'll have you guys come in. So the reason that I thought about this was because I started thinking about all these films that have even become popular over the years. The prime example in this example is Akira. that movie is very much reliant on well, maybe on some level reliant on your knowledge of Japanese history and culture, as well as maybe even your ability to speak Japanese. So my idea is that would not being able to speak the language and maybe not being familiar with the culture affect your ability to interpret this film in a certain way? For example, if you showed this to someone who has no idea about anything to do with Japan, would it have no effect on them? Let alone if they didn't speak Japanese and couldn't understand vocal inflections and certain other intonations in their voice that might enhance performance or other things like that. Ethan, do you have any thoughts on how that might be a thing?
Yeah, so I think another big thing that why you've brought up this topic is this phenomenon that's going around right now, is Squid Game.
The Squid Game dub.
The Squid Game dub. I have not seen Squid Game yet. I have just been so busy. I haven't been able to watch any TV. I've barely been able to watch movies because of my new job. But it's really fascinating to see how many people prefer the dub to Squid Game, and listening to clips and stuff, and how garbage it sounds. It sounds horrible, and it's amazing the amount that people will go to have it in their respective language, no matter how that changes the quality of no matter how much the original artist's vision changes in that, because I fully believe that performance, pacing in terms of line delivery, that's part of an artist's vision and what they want, that's part of a director's vision. And with dubs, it sometimes very much hurts it. And I think another prominent thing is, you brought up Akira, but something that I've just been thinking a lot about is, I've been watching a lot of Cowboy Bebop lately, and that's one of the few exceptions where the dub of that is far superior to its original sub, because its writing and all of its influences are Western. Most of it is not based in Eastern forms of storytelling. It's very much taken inspiration from cowboy westerns, Hollywood space operas, sort of noir films. And they sort of combines that together, and the pacing of the show is very Western in sense. And while the action pacing in terms of choreography, yes, that's very Eastern because of the fighting moves and the way the animation is directed stylistically. That's very Eastern, but in terms of its base narrative storytelling, it's very Western in its influence. And Akira, you're right, Chris. I first watched the dub to Akira, and I didn't quite like it. I thought I think a lot of the gravitas of what this is what the movie's all about is completely gone. I think the English actors weren't able to convey the emotion and the sense of scale that the original Japanese voice actors are able to do, because I think the director to those Japanese voice actors and the actors themselves, I think they had a really great understanding of what that film is, and what that film means to them, in terms of its historical significance and its cultural impact. I don't think many of the English voice actors quite understood that. So they sort of, there's sort of a dissonance there. I think there is a way to tastefully do a dub, even if the Western influence isn't there. Look at Ghibli's most popular dubs. That because those are mainly distributed by Disney, they got the money, so they're able to put in the research, and they're able to get the talent for that, and they're able to convey pretty good dubs most of the time. Like, I'd say the most significant Ghibli films, I usually watch the dubs of that. Like Totoro, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke. Like, I usually watch the dubs of those because A, it's very nostalgic to me, but B, like, it works. And like watching the original subs, like, it's weird to say, like, it's uncomfortable for me. Like, I tried to watch the original sub of Spirited Away, I couldn't get through it. It's so weird.
I'll let you continue on with this conversation about subs and dubs in a minute. Brandon, I do want to ask you, like, in terms of, like, because, like, I know that you have, like, I don't know if this is just a weird observation I've made about you, but I feel like whenever I've seen you interact with a movie, more than me and Ethan, it seems like you're most often drawn into performance by the performance of an actor. I feel like you have a really strong affinity for that. And in the context of like language, have you ever considered that, like, say a great actor, like I don't know, the lead actor in Parasite, what is his?
Song Kang-ho?
Song Kang-ho. Sorry, I almost said his Parasite character name. Song Kang-ho. Like, in all the movies that you've seen him in, he has always delivered an amazing performance, and I would agree as well. But as someone, you being someone, and me obviously being someone who don't speak Korean, do you ever wonder if, like, there are certain subtleties in their performance that we simply cannot understand because we don't speak Korean at all? In the same way that, like, maybe someone who doesn't speak any English and they watch a movie in English, maybe they won't pick up on certain, like, subtleties of the way a person says something or the way they behave about something. I don't know, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I feel like it is a little bit of, like, you get a lost in translation kind of vibe, like you mentioned in your question. Because there's obviously senses of humor. I learned this via my Korean cinema class that I took in college. This is the first time I'm speaking academically in a while, I feel like.
Yeah, me too. I didn't study for this test, man. I've just been talking about, like, props for, like, the past 4 months. I gotta get back into
I operate roller coasters. And it's very interesting because it's like there are senses of humor that are definitely lost on you based on, like, a certain intonation. You know, we have our own, like, if your first language is English, or you're very fluent in any language, you're gonna learn that because you're born to be, like, around people who speak English, right? So, like, you're gonna obviously pick up on what a good sense of humor is, and humans learn from patterns, and then they develop their own critical thinking skills and their own taste, and that's how they kind of develop their, like, Western or American or English form of, like, sense of humor, which is very similar. But there are tons of senses of humor, right? And I think that goes the same way for...
subjective, Murray.
Murray!
I mean, but, like, that evolves because there's certainly that in internet culture too, because internet culture is more international. So does that extend to other countries more than film does? Because internet culture is international, whereas, like, film is sometimes based in one place or one locale. And so I think to a certain extent, yes, it matters where you're from to get certain things, but a lot of things are universal. But to watch an original actor's performance in a thing feels more pure to me because that's how it was made originally. Not saying the dub is any less important, because that is another way for people to access a certain product. Yeah, but definitely. I feel like it's almost better just to watch it as the original. But I do want to mention one thing before I let you take the mic, Chris. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this while Ethan was giving his very verbose answer. That there was I noticed this a lot. It doesn't matter whether or not people are watching a product that is international or from a national, like our own national country. It's becoming more of a thing with people in our age group. I noticed this with our friends even, that they will watch a product with subtitles regardless of whether or not they need them or not. You know, like last night, for example, Justin tried to show us a movie called Love Hard, and Joey, about 2 minutes in the movie, was like, "This needs subtitles," and I was like, "What?" It's like in English. It's like we're all fluent in English. Like I don't. It's super weird that, and it's a Netflix movie, you know. And I'm super curious as to how that sort of plays into it, because. But then you have certain people who are like, we're willing to watch subtitles, watch our English-speaking product with subtitles, but then they go over and watch the dub of an international product.
Yeah.
You know, instead of the sub. And I'm like, what's the difference? You know? Oh, you just don't want to read. Okay. But you do, because you're reading the subtitles for the American product. So that's something I find super fascinating, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also, like, I want to talk about another thing. It's like, there's also a very fascinating thing that I think we've been noticing in terms of pacing of blockbusters, and like,
Yep.
sometimes, have you noticed there's like movies that we find total shit, but make billions of dollars overseas? I'm talking like the Michael Bay's Transformers movies.
Yeah,
Like,
they really do.
All of that movie's money is from China, right?
Yeah.
Like, it made a lot of money here, but like, for it to reach its billion, like, it was made in China. And like, I'm just thinking, like, what if those movies like are actually good in a different language, and with a dub of, like, you know, that's people not speaking English? What if the pacing of their dialogue works better in other languages than English, and the studios recognize that, and they know they can make more money overseas, so they do that?
Yeah.
And they just make more movies like that.
Exactly. I don't know.
So they're not making blockbusters for Western audiences anymore. Well, that makes sense too. Post-COVID,
I mean,
too.
especially with like how popular China's China's film industry has become, and how much, like, it's almost like, yeah, most of the money from, in terms of film, like consumption of film, comes from the East now. They make so much money there, and it does stand to reason, like, someone like Michael Bay would probably like recognize that and use that to his advantage. And I mean, props to him, I guess. Ethan, I'm really glad that you brought up the subtitle conversation throughout all of this, because actually that's the topic of our next prompt. So they probably bleed together really well. We actually, in the prompt, I actually even mentioned Squid Game.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're already kind of in this topic anyway, so the only thing I'll probably add to this is like, assuming it's well produced, I don't think any of us really have a natural problem with dubs. You know, I don't think there's anything like actively disrespectful about like creating something so that people can find it more accessible or whatever. You know, it's all just about like what works best for the audience. And I think another thing that we didn't really talk about is that there are certain people who might be I mean, I guess, yeah, like Ethan, like you mentioned when you guys were with Joey yesterday, your like the comprehension of the film is enhanced by your ability to more distinctly understand what they're saying. And subtitles might be a good way to do that. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Do you guys have anything else you want to say about this whole sub versus dub conversation? Because I know that this is a pretty contentious topic among like film peeps.
It's a hot topic. Yeah. I would say that I am very strictly a sub person for most of the time. I will always give an anime or a piece of foreign animation a shot in its original intended language first, unless it's something that I've already grown up on, like Pokemon. The Pokemon anime. That, for some reason, that's a really great dub. At least those first two seasons. Like, I still rewatch those, and I'm like, quality show. I don't know about the later seasons, but the Ghibli films, you know, some I've noticed a bit of awkwardness. I just rewatched Howl's Moving Castle, and I some things were sort of off in that movie to me with its voice acting. I don't know. Like Christian Bale, he just didn't fit the character for me. He didn't fit the character of Hal. And even though I used to be so comfortable with it, because that's all I've known, growing up. For some reason, that one's changing for me. But Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, those aren't changing for me for some reason.
I have a question.
Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, those aren't changing. I don't know. Yeah, what's your question?
What's your question, Brandon?
Do you think when a dub, like I have the same thing with Spirited Away. I grew up on the dub of that movie because that's what my dad played when we watched the movie.
Yeah.
And now when I watch the sub, I'm like, doesn't feel like right. Do you think it almost constitutes a form of appropriation because it's from a certain culture, and I know it's meant to be more accessible to an audience by giving them an opportunity to watch it in a different way, but it almost becomes like a Western product because the dub has become more iconic than the actual way it was created. Not that I have a problem with dubs, but
no,
yeah,
you're
no,
right.
I definitely think that that is something. There's something to be said about that. Like I feel like, Ethan, when you brought up Squid Game, the funny thing about Squid Game is that it came out to mass appeal to the world. Everybody was, and their mom was watching this fucking show. But the thing is, most people are watching it in dub. Most people are watching it in English.
Yeah.
And, you know,
which shocked
me. And the thing is, people like that dub is like infamously bad. Like, it's bad.
That's like the Grave of the Fireflies dub.
Yeah, and like
that's not a good dub. You're right.
Netflix presents Squid Game in English before it does Korean. Like, most people apparently reported that when they clicked on opened Netflix and clicked on Squid Game, it automatically went to English rather than
that's true.
Korean.
That's what it did for me.
Yeah, so I'm wondering.
That's so weird.
It is kind of like a strange appropriation of culture, but I think it's one of those things where it's like it's in a strange way like the benefit of being able to spread this piece of art to people is more valuable than preserving the natural, I guess, foundation of what it originally was. I don't know if you guys have another take on that.
No, because if you think about it, right, you have all these casts, these actors, right? All of the actors in Squid Game are going on these big press junkets talking about how their show's a massive hit and how it's popular overseas. But honestly, it's kind of crazy because the people are praising their acting and whatnot, but they're not actually listening to the actors involved. Like, they're seeing them emote, but they're actually commenting on the people who do the dub of it. But you rarely hear them actually talk about they talk about the characters, but they rarely talk about the acting when it comes to the dub. But that's almost contradicts it because they're not actually hearing these people perform. You know,
yeah.
I had to switch over to I forgot about it until you just mentioned that, Chris, that I had to switch over because I was like, it's not in English, and I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, I had to switch it over to Korean in order, and I was like, much better experience, to be honest.
Yeah. Ethan, please don't watch the dub when you do watch it.
No, I will not. I guarantee you. I've seen
after the clips you sent.
It's just, it sounds atrocious.
I wonder if do you think dubbing just naturally works better in animation because because it's removed from your mouth will I don't know, it's already removed from reality in terms of how your mouth moves, so it's it translates over better. I don't know if that's...
I think with older film and for animation, it does better.
Even not older film. I don't know. I think it works for animation because there's no uncanny valley for us of mouths moving. We know those mouths are drawn, and we haven't been able to perfectly capture mouth movements to read lips in animation, you know?
Yeah.
Usually it's just people moving their mouths up and down like this, you know? And occasionally their mouths will make a shape to mimic me going oh or ah, you know?
Yeah.
They'll do that, but we don't recognize that really in animation because we're focused more on so many other different aspects, character movement. We're noticing how the animators are making these characters alive by the way they move their bodies. And we're not really focusing on their mouths. We just see them moving, and that's enough for us to recognize that they're talking, you know?
I feel like animation and foreign product both almost require that a viewer be an active spectator, because you have to pay attention to every word. And then if you're paying attention already to every word that's being spoken, then you're also scoping the rest of the frame out. And it leaves for a more richer experience. Whereas, like, you're more likely when you're watching an American film to relax and almost just be caught up in the visual spectacle of it.
Right.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with the visual spectacle of things, but it can make you almost miss things about the quality of storytelling that you have.
Yeah. It's like the visual, like, and it's also interesting to think about, like, visually, like, when you're watching a film with subs on, like, of course, part of your perception is caught up with reading, but of course, you know, there is the other part of you that's watching the visual design of the film. But I wonder if, like, having subs on might detract from, you know, being able to behold the visual of the film. Because I'm wondering if, like Ethan, if you watched, like, I don't know, Blade Runner 2049 with subs on, like, would you really be able to, like, enrapture yourself visually with the film, or would it lose some of its effect if you're watching a film like that with subs on? I don't know.
I can't say, because I get enraptured by the visuals of Akira and Neon Genesis Evangelion, you know? Like, I feel just as enveloped and engrossed in those worlds as I do in Blade Runner 2049, you know?
Albeit they're similar movies.
Yeah.
Very similar movies. Very similar dystopian
aesthetic.
movies.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. And, like, and that kind of brings me on to our next prompt. Speaking of the way to watch a film, the superior format, one might describe it as.
No, don't ask me this question.
So it really is no secret that theatrical presentation is often considered the purest format in which to engage with the art of cinema. And however, like, many people consume film nowadays primarily from the comfort of their own homes, and understandably so. I mean, I think we all do that too. You know, computers, TVs, phones, even, like, and, like, some people obviously have their qualms with this. There are directors out there that, like, I mean, we all know Nolan and Tarantino refuse to shoot on anything that isn't film. And, like,
purists,
pure, like, film purists as they call them. And, like, but so I want to, like, gauge your guys' feeling about this, because, like, you know, obviously I think all three of us very much do value theatrical presentation as a medium to watch film. But I think we also value the accessibility of being able to see it from the comfort of your own home. I don't think any of us would have seen as many films as we have without that. If we had to go to the movies every time we wanted to go see a movie, I don't think we would see nearly as many films as we have. And so yeah, do you guys have any opinions about that conversation between preserving the art of cinema through theatrical presentation versus the accessibility?
Yeah. I was just actually talking to our most recent guest, Harrison, about this. Before we recorded an episode of Jungles and Dragons, we were talking about the movie Dune. And he was saying he's not going to go to the theater to see it.
Really?
He says that for him, what makes a theatrical experience to him is the audience engagement. He doesn't think about the more technical aspects of
that's true, yeah,
how a film is projected and, like, the detail you see or, like, the sound quality. He cares more about seeing
aspect.
Movies in a theater with the communal aspect, and I find that very interesting, because I feel like I'm more of a mix of all of them.
Yeah, same.
Because some of the most amazing and important theatrical experiences I've ever had in my life, there's been nobody in the theater. Like when I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at the Dome, there was probably like 4 other people in the theater, you know, and that was an experience. Or when I saw Brigsby Bear for the first time when I got dropped off from college, seeing that in the Frida cinema on that screen, even though there was barely anybody in the theater, that was an experience. But at the same time, seeing Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, like, those are just as much as valid to me because of how I saw it and who I saw it with. I saw it with
Right.
you guys and
Yeah.
a giant crowd of people. Like, those are just as important to me.
Or when Chris and I watched Smallfoot and Mary Poppins Returns in empty theaters.
I saw Mary Poppins Returns in an empty theater. Wait a minute. I saw that in an empty theater too. And I almost left that empty theater, let me tell you. But it's fascinating because we do have someone on this show who has radically changed how they saw a film by seeing it on a bigger screen. And I remember this vividly. Brandon,
Yeah.
you first watched the movie Roma on your laptop.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you thought it was fine. You thought it was good. But then we watched it in the DMAC theater and it completely changed your mind on the movie. So tell us about like your experience with this stuff.
I mean, I'm notorious for one to bring my phone or laptop into a shower while I'm watching a movie,
Yep.
As we know.
as you've seen on Stack Twitter. And I did that with The Irishman, and I've done that with Roma. And that's because, one, they're long movies, so it's sometimes hard to stay still for a while and not expect to have life go on, you know? And you're in the headspace where you can kind of mix life with watching cinema. But like with Roma, I remember watching it. I watched it on my phone because I wanted to watch it as soon as possible, and there was no other way for me to get to watch the movie. Like, it wasn't really showing in theaters at the time. It was very limited release for a Netflix movie. And on the laptop, like, I think I sometimes, you know, you just can't watch movies on your laptop. It's like it doesn't vibe with the moment. But I remember being like, well, I'll just watch it on my phone. And it kind of loses the scope and you know, the detail that you're expecting from like a big screen theatrical experience. You know what I mean? You're not really in a personal. You might be in a personal setting, but like you're losing out on all the technical aspects. And though I enjoyed the story of the film, like it was hard for me to stay engrossed because there were all these other distractions around me. So there are definitely like valuable pieces of the theater going experience, like going to see something in a theater, not wanting to be rude and whip out your phone, but also to focus more on a product because it's enveloping you, you know?
Yeah.
You're enworlded by it, as Fury would say.
Attention spans.
Right.
That's the key thing. I think that is the most key thing about preferring a theatrical experience because, I mean, if you have the willpower to not touch your phone while you're in the theater, like I have that willpower. I can, unless it's me and Brandon watching the card counter and we're the only ones in the theater. Sure, we'll go on our phones because that movie's boring as hell and we don't fucking care, you know. But like, I am not even thinking about my phone when I'm watching Dune on the big screen because my mind is on every single piece of the frame and taking it all in. Yeah. And I don't think I would have had that same experience if I watched that on HBO Max at home because I'm at home. I can throw on my phone, get on my laptop whenever I want, you know?
No, totally. I totally get. I think both of you like articulated that so well. Like it is like a balance between like the value that you get from the theatrical presentation as a medium, but also just the theatrical presentation as an experience, doing that alongside people, and like, yeah, Ethan, like you said, like Avengers Endgame. Can you imagine if it was just the three of us in a fucking massive theater? Would have been. Would have still been fun. But,
yeah.
My God, like. That would have been so much less like crazy than like the fucking like our shit turned into like a stadium by the end of that movie. Yeah, I think like the only I do want to throw in a quick anecdote because this is a story that I find really funny. Denis Villeneuve obviously has been pushing for theatrical presentation for Dune, despite the fact that it is also released on HBO Max. And on a podcast episode that he recorded with Roger Deakins, the infamous cinematographer. He was talking about how like when he was a kid, a lot of movies that he watched, like 2001: A Space Odyssey or even Planet of the Apes or whatever, like he saw all of that on TV as a kid because they just had reruns of it.
Yeah.
And you know, it still had that massive emotional impact on him.
Yeah.
And he's grateful to have had that, but he does recognize the value of of being able to go to the theater and see it in this way, because it does have a fundamental effect on your experience with the film. And Roger Deakins himself agreed with that statement, and he said, like, yeah, like, as much as I prefer the theatrical medium, being able to see it from your home and being able to see a film at all is more important in the long run. But I will Deakins has a slightly lower limit to that, his feelings on that, than Denis, because Denis told him that he has Tree of Life on his phone, and Deakins almost had like a meltdown in the middle of the podcast because of that.
Oh my god.
Could you imagine watching that movie on your phone?
No. I can't
no,
imagine
really.
any fucking Terrence Malick film on a phone. Are you kidding me? That's just... I couldn't
Brandon,
even
you're
imagine.
chuckling like you've done that before.
No, I mean, I think I've only seen 3 Terrence Malick movies, and I think one of them was seen in... No, 2 of them were seen in theaters.
Yeah.
So...
Or on a big screen, at least, because we saw
yeah,
Days of
bigger
Heaven
screen.
on a big screen.
Days of Heaven on the big screen is a
And A Hidden Life, right?
transcendent experience. Yes, and A Hidden Life, because it came out right before COVID. But I feel like before COVID, I went to the theater more, obviously. And
Yeah.
now I prefer to watch film on my laptop as opposed to like at my big TV where it has a sound system. I don't know why that is, though. I don't know.
It
Is
could-
it
it could
laziness?
be,
Is it being in the comfort of my own room?
Yeah, just comfort, I guess.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. You don't have to drive. You don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to do all that.
I gotta buy a ticket to go to my living room.
But Chris, it is interesting about this this conundrum about how we've seen our favorite movies, because only one of my top 4 favorite films on Letterboxd I've watched for the first time on the big screen, which is
Yeah.
Ant-Man. But I have seen 2, now I've seen 3 of my 4 favorite films on a big screen. I saw The Thing in that DMAC theater with you guys, and then I saw The Big Lebowski in theaters when they played at the Frida, and they absolutely do enhance my feelings on the film.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's like, I would say it's not necessary, but
certainly,
it never hurts. It only makes it better, I'd say.
Don't you think it's the purest experience to
Absolutely.
like if you're ranking them, right? We rank things
yeah.
here.
Yeah, ranking.
The best way to watch a movie is in theaters or in the biggest theater possible, right?
Yeah.
Because you're experiencing it, and you put away your phone, you feel like you're in the movie. Then you go to your home video system, because you can kind of control that setting. There's effort involved. Then the laptop, because it's a slightly smaller screen, but you can kind of go with the location, find your comfort. And then you've got your phone, which is kind of slutty if you think about it.
And then you got over Discord in 10p. Like how I watched Scoop.
Like you
Scoop.
did, yeah.
Scoop.
When I watched Scoop, it was like the size of like a quarter on my screen. I watched that whole movie just like that.
The way they intended it, for sure.
Just someone sent it over a message over Zoom because it was that small of a file. Because it was just tiny. I couldn't tell anything that was going on, but I watched the whole movie. It's like, oh yeah, Scoop, love it. It's great.
All right, and moving on to our next prompt. This next one
not
is
great.
a little bit more tricky. It's the moving image illusion idea. So,
Okay.
the way that I thought about this is that when you strip film down all the way, really the only way you can define film as a medium is that it is the illusion of the moving image. Simply that. It is the idea that you are creating movement where there is no inherent movement, or you are simulating movement, or through storytelling, whatever. So many ways you can interpret this. Anyway, this art form on some level has existed for centuries before we even invented a camera. Shadows in a cave, flip books, optical illusions, theater, cinema, streaming. So my question is, what's next? Will cinema as an art form inevitably die? And should we even bother to fight it? Is this like kind of the natural progression of how we as humans like have evolved with our art? And will we always have like film or like movies alongside whatever the next iteration of this is? I think a lot of us could probably I think all 3 of us could agree that video games are becoming more and more impressive every year. Every year, there's one or two, or maybe a couple new video games that are like, holy moly, this is like a full-on story. There's themes, there are characters. It's I hate using this to describe things, but cinematic. I think most people would celebrate Red Dead Redemption 2 and Last of Us as some of the most like cinematic style video games, and there's a huge laundry list of other ones that would probably fall into that bucket as well. Ethan, you're a gamer. What's your take on this?
I mean,
We've talked about this, Ethan.
Yeah, my gamer cred is slowly dying out as the days go by, because I never have time to sit down and play video. Like, the last game I played was Miitopia for the Switch. You know, I probably put in like 30 minutes in that game, and then I was like, all right, that was good. I haven't even played the new Animal Crossing update. I'm so fucking upset, and I haven't even played. Oh my god, I haven't even bought Ghost of Tsushima yet, and
That's another cinematic game.
I'm so fucking pissed that I don't have any time to sit, because I just want to. I wish I was back in high school on a Saturday where like my weekends were like it's weird. I didn't really hang out with friends during the day on the weekends because I was like, I see you guys every single day during the week. Like, it's time for my me time during the weekends. Right, and that's when I would sit down and just get lost in video games. And I wish Ghost of Tsushima came out when I was in high school on those weekends, because then I would have just been like, whoa, just totally blown away by everything. I think this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm getting weary of cinematic storytelling and video game development coming closer and closer. I think a lot of it has I mean, if you look at I think critics such as Nakey Jakey and Video Game Donkey sort of agree on this, where it seems a lot of the time that in recent games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Last of Us Part 2, both of those guys had their complaints about that game, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it is because sometimes developers get very ambitious in the cinematic storytelling that they sort of lose track of the gameplay. I think the greatest example of this is Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that would have
Hideo
worked
Kojima,
way better as a movie.
I think he should have made that a movie or like a series, because it's essentially the cutscenes of that game is 7 hours. There's 7 hours of cutscenes, and I think he should have just gone full wacko with all of his crazy surrealist shit as a movie. I would have totally enjoyed that. You know what I don't enjoy? Walking around these open plains of nothing, stumbling and pressing the trigger buttons to keep my balance like I'm playing QWOP. You know, it's just like. It's like Metal Gear Solid plus QWOP, you know? And it's just I totally I'm not having fun playing this, you know?
I think that's an important distinction to make, I think. I agree. Because I think, like, there is, like, the thing about, obviously, right? Like, movies and video games have a lot of similarities and a lot of parallels in the way their art is consumed and used. But they also have just enough of a distinction in, like, the way that we as spectators interact with it that... these are distinct mediums, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, that's a whole other thing that you could probably talk about, because like these are two different mediums. Virtual reality as well could also be interpreted as its own medium. You could do VR film, you could do VR video games. There's no like objectivity here, you know? There's so much like broadness in how these artful mediums can be utilized. So yeah, no, totally. I totally get that. And I think Death Stranding is a great example. That video game is mind-numbing to play. And I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that love that game, and no hate to you if you love that game. I wish it could be me. But,
I wish it could be me too, because I love Hideo Kojima. But it is a bore to play.
Those are two very distinct mediums. Brandon, I know you play
I'm
some
no
video
gamer.
games, but you're not a huge gamer.
You play Civ and Among Us.
Civ?
Yeah.
Okay. But like, I mean, do you have any opinion about like where film will go, or if is there going to be another evolution in how this medium, is used?
I feel like film won't die. The film's always going to be around. I think it just evolves as an art form. If we're looking at it from the film perspective, the way we consume entertainment, it's almost as if it's getting faster and faster to its detriment, I think.
Yes.
And you always see the discourse on Twitter about films needing to be shorter. I don't feel like that's a quality point to make. I feel like film should be however long it needs to be to tell the story adequately. And that is why I think it's just going to get shorter and shorter in terms of cinema and like what we're looking at. Because we got Vine and TikTok, those are like 6 seconds to like a minute long videos that people just share, and like that alters their attention span.
Yeah.
In relation to video games, I think video games are honestly I never play video games like these, but I'm not discrediting the storytelling to me. I think the storytelling might be the best aspects of a game like Red Dead or Last of Us, because I've definitely heard the stories for those and they sound compelling. But honestly, what bores me most about playing a game like the Red Dead Redemption or The Last of Us is almost that I feel like there's, from what I've seen and what I've heard, and from because I played the first Red Dead, it's almost as if like you're playing sequences that are carefully crafted, to the point where there's not really a lot of like variation.
Mm-hmm.
You just get to cutscene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like that developing company, Rockstar, is infamous for having kind of a formula to their games, and
exactly.
I mean, even Nikki Jakey like breaks that shit down for you.
Yeah.
Also, anyone listening, highly recommend Nikki Jakey as a video essayist.
The best one, I would say he's top 3 video essayists. It like doesn't matter of like film or any media. He just knows how to convey an argument. He was probably my biggest influence on my Totoro analysis. Yeah. So
if I feel like I'd rather watch all the cutscenes put together of something.
And they do that.
Yeah,
people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I've
watch Last of Us as like a
yeah. Rather than doing because I used to think cutscenes were like the worst part of games, but now it's like, but that's like the story, the aspects of it that will make you so impacted and endeared to it. But me being like actually a part of that world, being like controlling something that is obviously predetermined, is not up my alley personally. But I don't discredit it as an art form. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? I just realized a very interesting parallel of conversations that's going on online right now. People want movies to be shorter.
Yeah.
But they want games to be longer.
Yeah.
I know that. I've heard that.
Why is that?
I think games being longer is also just, I think there's the aspect of it where like
bang
for
of the
games
buck.
being longer, I think you want bang for your buck.
Because they're like, you want a $60 game.
Yeah,
you want that to be
game,
well worth your time.
Yeah, I've heard like people say like a game is well priced if it costs $60 and you get 60 enjoyable hours out of that game.
Right.
And for movies, I mean that's a saying. I don't know if I would agree with that, but anyway, movies. I don't know. I can't really pinpoint a specific reason people want it to be shorter. I guess maybe it's like films used to be shorter in like maybe the 2000s, and I guess people just like that better. That's okay.
It was cheaper to make films in the 40s and 50s because they didn't have to buy as much film, and But like you have the epics from them that were like super long and like like it's like the Dune of the 10 Commandments was probably like the Dune of the 1960s or 40s. Yeah. But like, what's funny is like people are like, I want to get the most bang for my buck, right? And they're not like that at the movies because they'll pay for $10 per ticket per person, and then they'll pay for concessions on top of that. So they're actually probably paying more money for like a shorter experience that they want than for the $60 video game. Because the $60 video game you can put on as many times as you want, as long as there's no DLC, and get like the product.
Yeah.
But like for a movie, if it's a bad movie and you're paying it, as long as you don't have like A-list or something, you're probably paying like $30 to go to the movie anyway. So they're paying. What do they want? You know, do they want a shorter movie that's worse and then they have more food, or they spend the same amount of money that they normally would? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing.
I think the economics of film have... I think people getting tired of long films is two things. I think attention spans because of the internet.
Yes.
And I think the economics of films and getting the bang for their buck. I don't think people are finding...
Those are intrinsically connected.
Yeah, I don't think they're finding their time well worth it. And I think a third one that has to do with why they want longer video games. I think people are having control issues. I think they want to be... I think audience members want to be more in control of their media than ever before because of video games, you know? Just that, and that goes into like entitlement of creative decisions from artists, you know? I think that goes into all that sort of discourse. And that's just really fascinating that we have created a society where everything is emphasized on personalized experience in technology, you know? You are able to cater everything in your technology to make it best suited for you, that you're in control, you know?
That homogenizes the audience, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that, along with attention span shortening because of online content, of people loving things that only last 10 seconds, people are going crazy over TikToks, like how they would go crazy over TV shows.
Yeah, everyone knows
70s.
The sounds, everyone knows trends, dances. Like,
yeah, it's
crazy. Everyone knows the same jokes. Like,
everyone knows the same jokes.
Yeah,
and it's so bizarre.
I'm very glad that you guys brought this up. That actually leads me perfectly into our fifth prompt.
Wait.
Wow, look at this. We're just flowing right through it.
Yeah.
Wait, I got...
You got something you want to say?
I'm gonna send a meme.
I'm gonna send a meme.
It's a meme about that I just made.
You just made it?
Are you going to text it to us, or?
I'm going to copy and paste it into our text group chat, yes. And it's to do with that topic. Fuck. Come on, man. Let me do
Come
this.
on. I don't want to cut this out. I don't want to cut anything out of this show. You're stalling.
Okay,
It's dead air.
Okay, sorry. There we go. I sent it. You will receive it in 1 second. It has to do with what we're talking about.
Choose your own adventure books. You think that's what started this all?
Yeah, because it's the controlling aspect of somebody wanting to be in control of their entertainment, and that's why they want longer video games and less long cinema, as you say, because it's less interactive. But yeah, I thought it was funny.
That's good. All right, let's go to the fifth topic, shall we?
Before we jump into the fifth topic, we've been talking a lot of intellectual stuff, so I want us all to take a deep breath. All right, okay. And with that, a quick intermission question.
Yeah.
Is it worse for a good film to get bad box office numbers, or worse for a bad film to get good box office numbers?
Oof.
You don't need to overthink this. Just which one do you personally feel is worse?
You mean
which one's worse?
Which one do you dislike happening more?
Okay, so this is Dune or Free Guy.
Sure. Yeah.
Dune's making money. What are you talking about?
Dune made 40 million. Free Guy made like 100 plus. You know, so
okay.
It's like in like the first 2 weekends, and it's like okay.
Oh, that's hard. Okay, I'm gonna say, a good film making bad numbers. I think that's worse because that means we're not going to get anything more like that. I think we're always going to get garbage. We're always going to get shit. But when people notice that something good and they give that lots of money, that's the best. But when nobody acknowledges it, I'm just like, wait, no, more of this, please. And Hollywood will listen to people.
Yeah. Or like...
Yeah.
I mean, like we've seen like the repercussions of like when a great film happens to make some great money, like Parasite, like that movie that's an indie film, but made a decent amount of money that like Korea as a culture became way more prominent in the world, and yeah, Brandon,
I
do you
think
have a
about
different
Nice
opinion?
Guys. I think about the Nice Guys when I think about this question because that movie, Shane Black's like best film.
Yeah.
And it didn't get, it's his like one of the least highest grossing ones, despite the star power, despite the great reviews, and they were gonna do more, and then the studio saw the box office returns and we didn't get sequels for it.
Right.
We didn't get any, and I'm not looking for like a cinematic franchise for every film, but we're gonna get less buddy cop films that try to do something different with the genre. And like that's like something that
We're gonna get less comedies.
Yeah, you're telling
like less good comedies.
You're telling the studios what you want with your wallet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let me try and play devil's advocate because I think it could be interesting to consider this.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. The
goes
box
with the
office.
picture.
It goes with the picture. It's interesting. The ghosts.
Ghosts.
If we're looking at it and we see like a bad film making great money, yes, there will always be shit. But if you are telling people what you want with your wallet, and the studios see that, wow, we can just lazily make a lot of product, like the Transformers movies, and they'll still make $1 billion, even if it's like coming from China, that's just gonna motivate them more to make product like that.
Yeah.
Something like the new Halloween movie or Free Guy, both of which I was not a fan of, but I know there are certain people who are fans of it. Chris, I know you like Free Guy. Or like Jungle Cruise or Cruella. That's just going to tell them, well, they're just going to crave something familiar, like an IP. And to me, that just says,
that sucks.
like,
yeah,
that's not good. But like, what's worse, I tend to agree with you guys, but I also see the merits for the other one.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely ups and downs for both. But yeah, great. Well, I'm glad you guys brought up the whole like TikTok thing with the last conversation, because our next conversation, and this leads really well because Tim Robinson for the title of the next one,
The guys.
watching at 2x speed. Really?
Oh no!
Really?
So if anyone doesn't know, there's actually this weirdly popular trend among young people that consume media at 2x speed. Does this say anything about how we as a society are drifting towards craving more and more consumption because of the way we've began to like consume our media, and like maybe social media plays a role in all this? I don't know. How has modern digital media consumerism affected our collective mental capacity? And does this present any concern for our cognitive abilities in the way we interact with things going forward? Because I swear, I have TikTok, and I swear I took a break from it for a week, and I felt like I gained like 30 IQ points.
Yeah.
Did you gain any time? You feel like
like
time where you were being more productive or like doing more things other
definitely.
than
I
TikTok?
feel like I was more productive doing shit because I feel like it's so easy to get looped into. I mean, I think that's why it's so addicting. You can sit there for hours and just scroll endlessly. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like we have the prime example that we share, Jungle Cruise and Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes kind of being the worst of the bunch in my opinion. That like really like breakneck pacing, and I definitely think that it's something that has made its way into film. And like, do you think are we seeing the repercussions of that in the way films are getting made now? Because it seems like a lot of these blockbusters are just suddenly trying to throw shit at you nonstop for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Ethan?
Oh man, this has been I think I didn't know that my old man yells at cloud moment would come so early in my life, Like, I just don't get it. Why would people want to watch things at 2x speed? And it just makes me so sad that blockbusters are adopting this. Like, Jungle Cruise, Snake Eyes, Venom, all of that shit felt like, we gotta go. And I gotta say, Brandon may not agree with this. He may not agree with it. I felt it with Eternals.
No,
I felt it with Eternals. I felt like that movie was directed to be slow paced. I could feel it in the acting, but the editing in that movie is atrocious. And I think that movie was cut together to be like, we gotta go. People, these are too big ideas for audiences. We gotta get to the action. We gotta get to the set scenes. I feel like there's no moment for characters to breathe, and when they do, okay, we're not talking about Eternals. But I feel it. I feel it with the studio that was sort of like the gold standard for Hollywood now, and that made me really bummed out.
I think I disagree with that.
Well,
because here's the reason.
Yeah.
With Eternals, there's an actual justifiable reason as to why I feel like there is a quicker pace, and I do think that they do take time to sit with certain characters and decisions. But unlike the other films, they have like 10 characters more so to develop. And yes, you could cut characters out of that movie.
And it's like, we got to go to this character. We got to go to this character now. And I felt like that was just going back and forth. I'm not even talking about how it talks about temporality within the film, like what you're talking about when we were talking on Twitter. Like, I get that it's going fast because they're trying to convey that time goes by in a second for these immortal beings.
Right.
But I'm not even talking about them jumping and forth between timelines. I'm talking about just going from scene to scene. Right. And from character storyline to character storyline. I felt like they were trying to get the most out of this. They bit off way more than they could chew with 10 new superheroes that we have no idea who they are. And they tried to do their best to balance out characters, shafting others, barely focusing on others, and making us and explaining to us why we should care about them rather than showing it to us.
I
feel like things happen to them. And I just feel like that has been an influence to people's attention spans, and they're not allowed to sit with characters for such a long time anymore because they're like,
but I've heard the complete opposite opinion too about the movie. Yeah, I've heard people say it's too slow, which is concerning me more because if you think it's super fast, then I'm super curious because that means like they're gonna hate Dune because Dune takes its time.
And I think people have hated Dune because of that.
Yeah, and I feel like the first time I've really noticed this overall increase in pace in terms of cinema is something like Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
Yes. Oh my fucking God.
That was the first film, blockbuster movie that I was like, what the heck? Like, why is it moving so fast? It's because they ignored the other movie and they had to do two films in one, basically.
Yeah.
And they couldn't just cancel out the other one and make 2 Star Wars movies because it wouldn't work because it's a trilogy. So they were like, let's just make a really long but really fast movie, to the point where it's like they're setting up all this stuff even though they don't really need to. And it just like, it drives me crazy. Like the way like Ethan was right. We didn't grow up with this form of entertainment. We grew up with, YouTube wasn't short form content all the time. It was like the first year of YouTube was sharing funny videos and stuff.
But because it was so early, I think we as like growing up, we were able to differentiate that just as much as we differentiate TV from film. We're like, okay,
it's
YouTube
a form
is
of
its
content
own thing because we saw it be born and we saw creators make it its own thing. We're like, all right, this is its own form media that we can enjoy outside of film and TV, But I don't think people born in 2006 when YouTube was already a thing, or even like people born in like 2010, people who are that old now. What was that, 11 years old?
It's like how they view Facebook now as obscure.
Yeah.
Because they don't, or they probably look at YouTube as like an old person app, and they look at TikTok as the cool one because it's the form of content that they like.
Yeah. This is definitely prompting like such a conversation about like how like the watching things at 2 times speed. I feel like there's no justifying that. I don't think this is, I feel like this is one of those things where like we don't really have a say in how the ways movies get made in the future. I'm sure people who grew up on movies in the 60s look at the shit that we like nowadays, and even they probably think it's like they probably dislike certain elements of it or whatever. So it's one of those things where it's like we kind of just have to rock with it. But I don't think the 2 times speed thing makes any sense regardless of your conversation. That just feels like you're actively trying to like say no.
I feel like it's like they're trying to save time and do some like there is too much entertainment. Like now that Netflix
Saturated
and
as hell, yeah.
HBO Max, you have like thousands of shows that come out every year, like literally, and every day there's something new. Whereas like when Netflix first started or Amazon Prime first started, they had like 5 shows a year, maybe. So you could keep up with every piece of content that was popular and that was popping off. But as there's becoming more like niche content, people are like, well, I want to watch all of it, but there's not enough time in the day with me having to go to work or go to school, as well as watch content that I like and don't like. And so, like, I feel like they're adapting to that because of the social media that they've already, like, ascertained via, like, TikTok or whatever. And they're like, all right, I can watch this at 2x speed, save some time, get it done. Even though that's definitely the worst way to do it. I feel like you should just pick and choose what you watch and, like, kind of learn to accept you're not going to watch everything. Because it's kind of toxic. The Snake Eyes and Jungle Cruise try to have these very heartwarming sequences that come off as funny because of how quick they are.
Yeah.
And they don't develop the characters enough to the point where it's like almost like bland. And you could say the same for Eternals if you're Ethan. But I disagree with that one. I do think that there are benefits to making it an 8-hour Disney Plus show versus a 2.5-hour movie.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Well, moving on from that, our sixth prompt, second to last, the AMC Artisan Designation. This was something that pissed me off a little bit when I first saw it.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
AMC
God.
Artisan, for anyone who doesn't know, is like a curated selection of AMC's theatrical releases that are meant to acknowledge and represent art house filmmaking. The company describes this program as an opportunity to highlight artist-driven films, showcasing expertise in writing, directing, acting, and other components. I think all three of us can very much agree that acknowledging and representing art house filmmaking is incredibly important. But there is a small part of me, and I don't know if you guys share in this opinion, that feels a little iffy about this, because when we start to arbitrarily assign value to something without even having seen it yet, is that in a weird way ultimately counterproductive towards the acknowledgement of great art? Because there's something about it to me that feels dangerously arrogant and implies that genre films that are funded by studios can't be great art. And all three of us have films that we love come from major studios that are really well funded and stuff. Like, you know, not every art house film is going to be amazing, and not every studio film is going to be terrible. So I don't know. Do you guys have an opinion about whether or not AMC Artisan is actually kind of counterproductive to that?
It's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. I agree with that. You, Ethan?
It's like,
I mean,
sorry.
Yeah.
Either of you.
No,
Yeah.
double-edged sword. You go, Brandon.
if you're looking at the Artisan, right, this designation that I think it was like 2019 when they started using this, and it was to signify a film that wasn't just a big blockbuster movie. On one hand, it's like, it does give a designation to like something that you would not normally see at a movie theater. Like if you go to a smaller movie theater in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to be showing this independent film or even a smaller drama. They're going to be showing only the biggest releases every week, the franchises and such. So in that sense, maybe they are, but it does kind of look down on both the big films and the independent films. Mm-hmm. Because with the big films, it's like, well, they can be artisan. Lately, we haven't really been seeing it as much, I'd argue, but
yeah,
they're kind of discrediting it before, they even get a chance to really like show their wings. Like I feel like you could probably, if they did it in the 70s, like AMC Artisan would have considered Star Wars an artisan film.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was technically an independent film.
That's the thing. Like, yeah, that's true. The thing is like, I've seen AMC Artisan go back and forth about how they feel about certain films. Like Dear Evan Hansen was an artisan film, and they pulled they took it away.
But it's like it's $100 million movie too.
Yeah. So it's like
that's like the thing.
So it's like so because of that immediately made me go like, oh, so that criteria is obviously pretty vague about what constitutes a great film to these guys.
You know what's not an artisan film? I just looked at my most recently watched, not Dune, Lamb. Why is
not an
Lamb?
artisan film.
Lamb is
weird.
not an artisan film, even though it's one of the weirdest out there films I've seen this year. It's not. It doesn't have the artisan label on it. At least in my AMC app. I don't know if it's different for you
It's also
guys.
just it's hard to brand an independent film as artisan too, because it's like that's almost making it otherized, you know,
Yeah.
it seems like it's if you think about it, right? If somebody's looking to see and you don't put a label on it, and they see Lamb, which is an interesting title, or you see Eternals and Dune and all this like a well-known IP, or just Marvel Studios Eternals, you know, then they're probably gonna be like, well, maybe I'll give this independent film a shot. But if they see artisan, what if that label has like a negative connotation because of experiences they've had with like independent film in the past?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
I think it others the other side from both sides of the
Yeah,
argument.
it polarizes
Exactly.
the two kinds of films that you can get, and then, like,
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten to a point where I would like to believe that we can value both, and there's merits to both. But I feel like in a strange way, AMC Artisan, as much as it uplifts art house filmmaking, it detracts studio filmmaking, and I don't think that is productive towards kind of leveling the playing field between them. Certainly, I mean, studio films always are going to do well, but also like just like as a way of measuring quality, I don't think the artisan designation is going to be something that is ultimately going to be helpful in like 5 years or whatever. I don't know.
It's doing more harm than good. You know, it's like something that is like totally well intentioned by the studios or by the theater chain, because they're trying to designate something that is not, you know,
Popular,
not necessarily your average or not popular, trying to get it more business. But I think it actually detracts from business in that sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I do
Great.
too.
And moving on to our final topic.
The final topic.
Gentlemen.
Look at
our
this.
Final
Woo.
topic. What
Can we do a stack of
constitutes
these?
a great film?
What
By
the
what
fuck?
That's the great question. What
Objectivity.
to you like there's the whole conversation we could have about whether or not there's an objective way to evaluate, you know, the quality of a film. On my personal way, I definitely think there are certain parallels about how you can register what makes a great film, but I think there's so much subjectivity that goes into what makes a film valuable to someone.
Yeah.
There's so much
Stacked
different
Civil War.
opinion that like it's largely subjective. So what I want to ask you guys personally, what makes great film for you?
Let's make this a bit more fun. Let's
Shut up. I'm joking.
Shut up.
Yeah, let's
What's
make it
up,
fun.
Oh.
Yeah, what's up, Ethan?
No, I'm making.
Oh.
I said more fun. Let's utilize our top four films on Letterboxd as examples to what make
I have that.
about
I've
how
got
we
it pulled
define
up.
it. You already got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, let's start with Ant-Man for me. So what makes a great film to me is, I think, personal connection to my life, sentimental value, spectacle. I think it's got to have good and I'm not just talking about spectacle and action. I think spectacle and emotion, spectacle and feeling. You know, spectacle can be just defined in multiple ways. I think you can also carry that to John Carpenter's The Thing, which is also one of my favorite movies. I think that movie is a masterpiece in terms of horror spectacle and horror emotion. And then I think a great film helps me see how I see myself and how I see the world. And for that, I use End of Evangelion and The Big Lebowski. I think those two films have a very specific philosophy that is very important to me as a person, you know? And it's and those are great films because it's so satisfying to see the way I feel about myself and the world portrayed cinematically on screen.
Yeah.
And that's why I love those films. And I think all of those together is what constitutes a great film for me, if it has those elements, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. Ethan, I think you nailed it on the head, because I think you and I share, like, Brandon, I'm sure even you too, like, there are certain value points, I guess, like, that constitute what makes a great film for me personally. Like, obviously, you know, I will get behind great camera work, great editing, all that mumbo jumbo. Yeah, absolutely. Gotta love that in the movies. But on a strictly, like, on a fundamental level, what makes a movie for me are one of three things, or multiple of three things, if they can score all three. First is personal connection. Do I have a personal connection to this movie that, like, on a deeply human level affected me? Second, thematic resonance. Does this film say something, bring up a concept, an idea that is intellectually stimulating to me, make me think about something or feel something in a different way? Finally, and I have to hand it, entertainment. Like, I also see this medium as a mode of entertainment for me. Some of my favorite movies are literally just because I have fun with them. And yeah, like, so, like, personal connection, right? I mean, you've got In the Mood for Love. You got Your Name. You got Soul for that for me. Thematic resonance. I mean, what? Like, Blade Runner, Tokyo Story. I don't know what else. Dark Knight, Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah. And entertainment. I mean, I love me some Superbad. You guys know this.
Yeah.
You know? I love me a dumb comedy.
I knew you would.
Yeah. So, like, that's how I place my value in film. And, like, that's the great thing about this, is, like, no one can tell you where you put your own value in film. And that's what makes film interesting. Everybody likes what they like, and that's cool. And you, Brandon, how do you evaluate criteria for great filmmaking?
I think great film is hard to define, you know. It kind of just happens, and you're like, oh, that was a great movie, you know. I don't look at film expressly from an entertainment mode. I know that's how most people look at it. A lot of people in our friend group.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that's wrong, because that everybody has their own way of looking at film like that.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I don't get the older I get, especially, like, the more entertainment is, like, not the least, but, like, a lesser value when it comes to evaluating a film. Because a movie, like, for me, Failsafe is not what I'd consider to be entertaining, because entertaining has this positive connotation where you're, like, laughing along with the film or having such a good time evaluating it, and that's what the connotation it has when people say it's entertaining. I think more fascinating is the word that, like, comes to mind. Or
spectacle. I think Failsafe does have spectacle, but not visual. I think it has moral spectacle and emotional spectacle and political spectacle.
But I'm not describing that right now.
No, but I feel like that's what you should use instead of entertainment value, is spectacle. Because I think...
because spectacle is mainly visual, though. That's, like, how it is defined.
I think we should start changing the definition.
You gotta discuss that with the Webster's and Merriam's dictionary.
All right. I'll be right back. See ya.
Dude, Ethan just exits podcast. Stage right. And, like, with something like Failsafe, I'm very intrigued by a conversation about a topic about nuclear war with Candyman. It's about race. With 12 Angry Men, it's about moral judgment upon other people. And with Back to the Future, I just think it's an extremely well-made film. You know, when all of the aspects of a film are important. I feel like technical is, like, almost last, because a film can be great with, like, even, like, the smallest dog shit budget. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at all the Dogma 95 films, like, The Celebration, that's fantastic, but it probably had, like, a budget of, like, $20K, maybe $50K.
Yeah.
You know?
All the budget probably went to that house. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, when I look at, like, my 4 films, I don't look at them in terms of, like, wow, that film looked visually fantastic. Like, yes, it surely adds to that. But for me, like, I don't look at specific boxes to check off when I think this is a great film. Yes, surely emotional connection is valuable when you're when you're watching a film, because that makes you connect with it more as a human being, and who doesn't love that? But I almost feel like the mental connection between its themes and the artisan craft is also something that's extremely important that not a lot of people talk about, because more often than not, they're viewing them in two separate prisms. Like saying the visuals must be separate from like the story, when maybe they're thematically really connected, and that's kind of cool to me, you know? How like a shot in 12 Angry Men of a knife isn't just a shot of a knife, you know, in the storytelling. It's a shot of
on
like
the table.
Exactly. It's a turning point within the film, but also thematic evaluation of a certain type of people in a slum, or certain type of opinions of people in a slum, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are a lot of things that make a great films, and it's kind of like a je ne sais quoi type thing.
Yeah.
You'll just know it when you see it.
You know it when you see
Yeah.
it. That's how you know. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us on this very fun Salon episode. And that's the episode.
What the fuck? Hey, what? What the? Get that out of here!
So sus.
What?